This video is a supplement to my Critical Thinking in the Bible series. A fellow YouTuber named Earnestly Seeking has asked me to explain my exact definition of critical thinking. So I thought, for Earnestly Seeking and anyone else who might have that question, I can make this video which will hopefully explain it precisely. I'm going to give two scenarios that I think will help you to understand. In the first, we'll assume that every day you travel to work via Highway 0. You travel north to work and come back in the southbound lane. Your next-door neighbor also works at the same place and takes the same commute. However, he works at night and you work during the day, so you often cross paths. One morning, as you're right about to leave for work, your neighbor pulls into his driveway, gets out and runs across your yard and tells you he's glad he caught you before you left, because as he was traveling back home, he noticed that in the northbound lanes there was a severe accident and a traffic jam that lasts for miles. Now, using critical thinking, you analyze what you already know about the situation. You know accidents sometimes do happen on any highway, and that a traffic jam can result. You know that your neighbor takes the same route you do, therefore he would have access to the information he's providing you. You also know that you have a friendly relationship with your neighbor, and you can't think of any reason he would want to lie to you. Well, you can't say for certain that there's an accident and a traffic jam because you haven't seen it with your own eyes, but you are inclined to believe it because critical thinking leads you to do so. Knowing that there's an easy alternate route, you decide to take that rather than risk being stuck in a traffic jam because you know there probably is one. Well, as you begin your trip, you hear a news report on the radio that says there's a severe accident and a traffic jam that stretches for miles in the northbound lane of Highway 0. Now you have two independent sources of reliable information telling you the same thing. You don't need to see the accident with your own eyes to know there is one. It seems very unlikely that your next-door neighbor and the news report would conspire to lie to you. Now consider another situation. Your neighbor runs across the street, runs across your yard to you and says, "God just spoke to me and told me that every time you drive Highway 0, he gets very angry. He wanted me to warn you that if you don't stop driving Highway 0, out of punishment, he is going to inflict your nephew with hives." Now, using critical thinking on this scenario, you know it seems improbable. You can't think of any reason why God would be angry at you for driving Highway 0. You can't think of any reason why, if he were angry at you, he would punish you by inflicting your nephew with hives. And if he were going to do that, you don't know why he would go to your neighbor rather than going to you. Using critical thinking, you're not going to believe him. What's more, you may be concerned for his sanity. Critical thinking isn't being obstinate. Someone who's obstinate, when they heard in the first scenario that their neighbor who drives along Highway 0, that there was a traffic jam, would refuse to believe it and would be caught in the traffic jam. A critical thinker, however, would take heed of the information because it would seem reasonable. A critical thinker would not believe the neighbor who said God had spoken to him, although a gullible thinker might do so. Critical thinking is avoidance of gullibility and a strategy for attempting to be right more often in one's opinions. That is what I am applying to the Bible in this series, Critical Thinking and the Bible.